All right, John, welcome to the Steven Skinner podcast today.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on here.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's awesome. So again, you are the founder of In My Father's Kitchen, and I think maybe even today, some of the people that might be watching, maybe they're subscribing, they're interested about this local thing we're doing about sharing what people are doing in our community and leadership. They might not even be familiar. Can you just give us a little bit of what is In My Father's Kitchen? What do you do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So In My Father's Kitchen was started in 2011 by my wife and myself. We're co-founders. I was a restaurateur, had a restaurant in the city of Syracuse in the downtown area, north side. I was a city resident my whole life, went to public high school. I own a home in the city, so my heart is a city dweller. I had an encounter with an individual on an off-ramp one day in 2011 that changed my life forever. I fed him, and in the middle of feeding him and having this conversation with him on an off-ramp, my life was changed, but I also got to hear this gentleman's story about what was going on in his life and the trauma that he's experienced and what caused him to be homeless, and that left me a changed man. And I went home and I told my wife, I think I know what we're supposed to do with our lives. And we left restaurant world and started this work that we're doing now. Now we're in year 11, going into year 12. And we do direct street outreach. So we're bringing out supplies, clothing, resources, and now a medical team comes out with us, and we're meeting people where they're at in places not meant for human habitation. That means in the woods, under a bridge, in an abandoned house. And we're bringing all services to them in hopes that the love that we're bringing and the compassion that we bring will cause someone to make a change in their life.
I mean, that's amazing, not only inspiring, but obviously, I think when people think of someone homeless, I think most of the time we think of the person standing on a corner asking for money. We may only see a couple people. Give us some stats of what goes on. I would assume, are you in like the greater Syracuse area or primarily just in Syracuse?
Yeah, so it's the city proper. So because we're a small agency, I can't really get into the county too much because it just stretches you. Mm-hmm. So we kind of do the perimeters of the city of Syracuse. We stay in the boundaries of the city of Syracuse, and then we're engaging folks like those people that you're saying holding cardboard signs. Not everyone is homeless that's hold those signs, but there's a lot that are homeless. And then when we encounter that person on an off-ramp or an on-ramp, then we ask them, like, where are they staying? Where did they lay their head last night? And they start to reveal a tent in the woods, an abandoned house on this certain street. And I was sharing earlier with Anthony that we have like a house that I'm working with that's an abandoned house on the north side of Syracuse. There's like over 10 people residing in this house with no electricity, no running water, and they're just living in there. And a lot of it's addiction driven. So addiction and mental health challenges are huge out on the streets of Syracuse. And if you're not going untreated in those areas, homelessness obviously goes up. And then they have to try to find a place to stay, and that's we're engaging them in those places.
Is it 100 people, 200 people that you either serve or that you're aware of?
That's a great question as well. So we have three major shelters in our community. So any given night, there could be 400 people sleeping in shelter. The group that we're dealing with won't even go to shelter. So we're talking about maybe 24 to 30 people outdoors in these things that I was explaining to you that we're engaging on a regular basis, seeing them regularly. So I'm doing about 50 to 60 lunches in a week, going out to the streets of Syracuse. And a lot of it's, you're seeing the same person over and over again. You're trying to build this relationship. So I would say about 24 to 36 people, 2 to 3 dozen people living out in these fringes.
Wow. Again, what type of either city support, again, has either the county or the city, does anyone come alongside and say, we love what you're doing, how can we take part, or how can we be part of helping?
Yeah, that's another great question. So the majority of our funding source is private donors, so we're not for profit, so we receive donations that help us do out of the box thinking. But we do get a grant that comes through the federal government through HUD that gets distributed through the neighborhood and business development part of the city of Syracuse to the mayor's office. So we have a small grant that comes in through there. And then we've partnered with Onondaga County with our Higher Ground work program. It's a day labor program. It's an alternative to panhandling. That's totally funded by the county executive's office and the county, and the legislature voted and passed it, and that project's funded. Like right today as we're speaking, I have 9 people on a work van. Instead of panhandling, they're picking up trash and stuff in the community. So those are the 2 major funding sources, but then the majority of our funding is private.
That's awesome. Now, did I hear correctly that our mayor's going to jump in there with you or do something with In My Father's Kitchen here?
Yeah, so the mayor, when he was the deputy commissioner, gosh, it had to be about 8 years ago or more. He came out once with me to see what was going on. And Ben just has a heart for the city, right, our mayor. And then he becomes the mayor, and he's a total advocate of the work that we're doing, as well as other agencies in our community. And he's going to be riding out with us tomorrow, which is Thursday. So he's going to be doing a ride along with us. So we have a mayor who's invested in the community, who not just talks the talk, he walks the walk. He rolls up his sleeves. You see him all over the place, picking trash, doing this. He's a guy who's all in, and he believes in the work, but he also wants to learn and know what's really going on. He'll pick my brain from time to time and want to know what's the vibe on the street and the homeless sector right now, and I'll give him information.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, he'll be with us tomorrow.
That's very cool. Tell me, we're getting to the cold season here.
Yeah.
Again, we're in fall. We're lucky right now. We've had these little warm spells here, but again, we know what's coming here.
Yeah.
What obstacles, challenges does the winter now bring to the organization?
Yeah, so it's two pronged. So winter becomes an ally for us as outreach workers because it drives people who are outside to make a decision, at least to go to the shelter, right? But then there's a hardcore remnant of folks that the cold, it doesn't matter. They won't go to the shelter for whatever their reason may be, and they ride out the winter. So there's a handful of people that will ride out in these abandoned houses. Imagine being, like right now I've been struggling turning the heat up in my house because you just don't want to bite the bullet yet, right? So you put on a hoodie and there's a little nip in your house. Imagine with nothing whatsoever, no running water, and you're just in there with a coat and gloves on. It's horrendous, but that's the challenge. Frostbite, we've had a gentleman lose his toes because he got frostbitten one winter. Your extremities, your hands, bad things just happen to you if you're living outside in the cold. We're not built to be outdoors like that. And we always encourage, like right now, I'm telling folks, hey, this is an anomaly what we're seeing in Central New York in regards to this warm weather in November. Don't get tricked into thinking this is going to stay like this. Winter is coming. So we're always trying to get them to at least go to the shelter.
That's awesome. I mean, again, and I know you already shared a little bit about why you do what you do or how you got this thing started, but what makes you wake up? Because I'm sure within it, you're in a field where I would say there's got to be some sadness. That you have to have empathy and compassion, but there's definitely some sadness to it. What makes you get up every single day and say, you know what, I'm going to do what I did yesterday and experience this all over again? Is something that drives you for this?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. So with me, I'm a minister as well, so there's a faith component to my life. So for me, and my wife, we don't look at it as a job. It's like our calling, right? So the thing is, we're dealing with humans that are broken. Like we've lost 56 people have perished since I've been doing this over the last 11 years. That's a lot of people that I met that are no longer with us for lots of different reasons: ODing, hit by a vehicle and dying because they were panhandling, dying in an abandoned house because a fire started in there. 2 women were murdered. So a lot of craziness, and it hits me hard. Like you have to swallow that pill. We call them friends, not clients. And if your friend passes, you suffer, right? So with me, but that's the fuel that we use to keep going with the work that we do. Every morning we wake up, we're like, we don't want to lose another person. We want to help another person, right? So those deaths are the kind of the fuel that I put in my tank to keep going forward, because it's life and death living outside.
Yeah, oh man, it's just, it's awesome. Couple lightning round questions as we again head to an end here. Give me a couple things that just brings joy to your day as you do what you do. What brings joy? What brings the excitement?
Couple things. The excitement is how we've evolved as an agency now, where we have a medical team coming out with us. Like yesterday, we had a doctor with us out on the streets. So to be able to bring medical care to someone who's suffering outside, where they don't have a doctor, they can't, they use the ER as their physician. So to be able to see that part of what's happening with our organization brings joy to me. The other part is when someone transforms and someone buys into their own success. Like we might see some potential in someone that they don't realize, and we help them through this journey, and next thing you know, they buy in and they get momentum going, and lives are turned around and reunited with their families. So we have a lot of great success stories. Those are the things, like I think there's more traumatic stories than success stories, but those success stories are the things that we hold on to, because we know that it's possible. That gives me hope that it could happen for another person.
No, that's amazing. Give me a couple now challenges. What are the challenges, the greatest challenges that not not just daily, but in the organization right now? What are maybe 2 challenges that you're facing right now?
Well, first I'll go with challenges. You can't supersede someone's free will, right? So when we're working with folks, and I want the community to understand that as well, you might see someone holding a sign or you see someone living outside somewhere. We can't make someone change. I think that's hard for people to understand, because if they have an addiction or untreated mental health going on, it's hard when you have things going on in your life and your body, and especially chemicals going through that, to make the rational choice. So the challenge there is trying to get someone to buy into their turnaround. So that's a frustrating thing for us. Another, I think, challenge is like the problem within our community is being addressed through a coalition, but there's still cracks in systems, you know what I mean? I think for me, as someone who's like a director of an agency, but also a caseworker on the ground, so I wear 2 kind of hats there, that I see the pain of a care manager who needs to deal with folks, but then you're working within a system where it's not functioning the best that it could be. But the agencies are all working together to try to make it better. So I think it's sometimes getting the right people at the right table to maybe flush out a new way of doing stuff.
It's all the pain of growth, the pain of change and the pain of growth. Again, we're coming to the holiday time. I'm sure there's needs for giving at all times, but I would love to know right now, not just what are the needs, how do people give? Where are ways that people can either give? I know you guys have products too. You guys sell products, but then also even giving direct. Share a little bit about how people can give.
Yeah, so I encourage people in the community. I always say don't give money to folks you're seeing in panhandling, because the majority of it's going to addiction. So if you're going to do that, give to an agencies, right, that are working with the community. If we're talking about In My Father's Kitchen, you can visit us on our website at inmyfatherskitchen.org. You could donate there financially if you wanted to. You could donate items to us. We're always taking socks and toiletries. We have a facility on Holly Ave where you could drop things off to us that will take physical things from you as well. But I think the other way is buying our products too, like Wegmans and yourself at the Sacred Melody carries our product, as well as other specialty shops in the community. There's a sauce, a syrup, a coffee that's eating with a purpose. If you want to make pasta for your family tonight, use our sauce. And that money comes right directly back to us to help us do what we're doing. And you're also teaching your family that you're giving back to an agency.
So at myfatherskitchen.org, right?
In My Father's Kitchen.
In myfatherskitchen.org. They can go right there.
Yeah.
What's the address for dropping off in Holly?
Yeah, Fridays between 12 and 2 at 501 Holly Ave, 13203 is the zip code there.
No,
so if you put it in your GPS, it'll get you right to us.
That's awesome. Again, you're doing amazing work. I commend you. I think it's inspiring. And, my thought I would say as we wrap up today is the fact that what you're doing here, you're changing lives. But I also think sometimes the unspoken life change is the person that's watching from afar, that maybe what you do on a daily basis, you don't know the interaction that you're doing, if that person is going to have a life change, have a decision thing, whatever. But there might be someone that's driving by, maybe a corporate worker, maybe a student, maybe a young person. They see, maybe someone that goes with you, they see what you're doing, it changes them forevermore.
Yeah, my life was changed because of an interaction with an individual on a corner. And we've brought in people out with us, and that same thing, they'll say something, I can never drive around and see someone holding a sign and feel the same way I felt before. So I think education and bringing information on what you're doing with this wonderful podcast, you're trying to inform the community of what's going on. When you have information, that should cause you to act, or at least think differently towards a situation. And I'm hoping today's encounter will cause people who watch this to think differently about someone holding a sign. It's not that easy just to go get a job or just stop doing drugs. There's a bigger thing to unpack, and hopefully today brought some understanding to those folks.
That's awesome. In closing, again, for our community of Eastwood here, everyone knows I live and breathe and bleed for this community here. What can our community be aware of? Again, is there a phone number you call if you see something happening or you have a concern about someone? Is it just the traditional emergency numbers, or is there another number that people can call? And is there anything else our community can do to support you?
Yeah, so if you see someone that you believe is in a homeless situation and not in an emergency situation, if you see someone that's in an emergency, it's 911, but if it's a non-emergency situation, you think they're homeless, you call 211. It's a wonderful resource in our community. They'll dispatch an outreach team, whether it be In My Father's Kitchen or Rescue Mission, will go and investigate that person that you might be seeing in the community. I know in Eastwood, we have a gentleman that walks through town all the time, and he's known to everyone. And he's a gentleman, he's an example of someone who just does not want to go indoors. And he's been living outside for years. And we all know him, he's a sweetheart, he's not a trouble, but you know, it's someone who's got a family. You know what I mean? So call 211 if you see someone. Don't get frustrated if you called it and you still see that same person, because you can't override someone's free will, but there is someone engaging with them. It's just waiting for them to come to that moment of, I'm ready to turn around.
Well, again, appreciate what you do. And again, even as a community, you know you can reach out to me at any time. But I wish you the best. I know, again, you're doing amazing things. So
That's
appreciate you coming on today to the Stephen Skinner podcast.
That's right. Thank you, Stephen, and a happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Absolutely.